All right. Hello, everybody, again. You're in the room. If you are in the room, we're going to have a very dynamic session. It is a hot topic live, so people are also going to be able to stream this. It's upgrading the resident experience with AI. And it is my pleasure to introduce Inez Rodenburg, the CIO of Danville, Virginia. Aaron Grisdale, the town manager of Woodstock, Virginia. Evan Bergwall, who just came in, he's the press director for the Georgia State Senate. Chip Kennedy, the founder and CEO of CivicReach. Kris Sandor, the founder and CEO of Readily. We heard him pitch yesterday. Zain, the founder and CEO of GovText. And Nick Lyle will be serving as moderator, the Chief Impact Officer for CivStart. So without further ado, we've got our afternoon panel session.
Test, test. Hello, everyone. Back to your regular scheduled AI-based programming. I think we want to make this a little bit different than some of the other AI panels that you might have seen at other conferences and throughout the day. I think there's a lot to be said about the big picture of AI and the impact it's going to have across the country. And we wanted this panel to serve as an opportunity to get a little practical, to talk about some of the specific implementations that AI is being used for now in cities, counties, municipalities across the country, or in the Senate of Georgia, in your case. With that, I'm going to skip introductions because you can tell we have a very large panel, and Tara just did that for me. But I'm curious if we could go through and try and keep it to, maybe 1 to 2 sentences for the public sector folks here. Could you briefly describe the core challenges that you were facing before implementing an AI-powered solution? Yeah, let's start with that. Inez?
Okay, so I guess I'll go first.
Yes.
So we, City of Danville, we did not have a central 311 center. So public calling in would have to call Public Works or police or community development. So that was simply solving a problem for us to have a central virtual agent that they can call that would address and answer all the questions coming in from our customers.
Accessibility to information was something that we were looking to enhance. We get a lot of routine calls on simple things that people can find on our website. Often people don't want to dig through a website, and so this was helping us try and alleviate the burden with our front counter customer service staff, and so just improving that accessibility to information on our website was a key challenge.
So we are currently looking at AI solutions, mostly for kind of the same stuff, taking those simple questions that take our admins, our press corps, and being able to simplify the answers in a very expedient kind of way.
Thank you. You did a great job keeping it short as well. Yeah, I'm hoping you all can see some of the through lines here. So these are kind of public-facing solutions for communicating in some specific ways, for sure, but there's a lot of commonality across these, the ways that the AI is being powered to use these solutions. I guess, so now to come back to some of the entrepreneurs, the startup founders here, I wonder, starting with you, Chip, if you could tell us a little bit about what were a few of the core features that made it kind of the right solution as you were talking to your clients about this.
Yeah, so I think most of you have heard, I'm the founder of CivicReach. We're a voice AI call answering service for municipalities. So that's how we first got in touch with the city of Danville to solve this problem of the desire to have a fully staffed, fantastic 3-in-1 center, but not necessarily the funds to have that staff and create that new office. And that was the opportunity for CivicReach. I was recently called out on stage for being a good listener. So I will say, with Danville, we're still in the implementation process, and we are learning so much. So we recently had an extensive onsite. Our team was in Danville, and we were talking to countless staff members. And some of the most requested features were not things that we had talked about in the initial contracting phase that we are incredibly excited to build. So one that was top of mind is internal staff transfer. We're a resident-facing AI solution. We did not think that internal staff transfer would be talked about as much as it was, but countless staff members in Danville have said that's how they spend a lot of their time. they're trying to call their colleagues and they don't know which extension they want to call and they don't want to have to look it up anymore. So that's where we can solve a problem that is very aligned to our original problem, and we can help even more than we thought we could before.
Kris?
Yeah, so for us, where we added a lot of value to the town is that we just go so far deep into the information that the residents are looking for. It's not just whatever's on the website, or it might be on the top page. We're getting into all the PDFs. We can get into SharePoint folders, Google Drives, really anywhere that information exists, even if it exists on other websites. And same for Chip and Zain here. So we all run closed systems. These are not going to Wikipedia or ChatGPT or anything. So they're closed systems, but it's really just getting access to all the information that a resident might need, and then frankly, which I mentioned yesterday, is just building out these agentic workflows where we can handle really unique and more complicated situations that residents might face at all hours of the day, and we can give an example of that later on.
Well, first of all, thank you, Nick, for hosting this panel. And I want to say that I'm proud to have one of my clients here, Evan, but also two of my partners, so CivicReach and Readily. Ascendant works with them, and we're happy to do that. The core of our business is essentially a CRM that's used by cities and counties and state legislatures. And the value proposition to Evan was that the product integrates with front-end AI, would be voice AI, chatbots, and so forth. So the key value prop for him and moving forward is the ability to integrate with the CMS or CRM product, make it easier for his staff to be able to manage the chatbot and the CRM all in one platform.
Great. So I think we can get a little bit more expansive with our answers here. I think we're going to dig into, Chip, you said it's been a learning experience the whole way, right? So I'm curious to hear a little bit about that learning experience and a little bit from you, Inez, about the implementation process. How do you go about ensuring a successful implementation of this kind of solution when it is maybe solving a pretty standard city problem, but it's also using some technology that I'm sure people had a lot of questions about as well?
Yeah, so great question. I'm going to take a little bit of different approach to that answer and focus on two things. So we work with about 12 different departments, and there was a disconnect on their understanding about what really AI is all about. I think they're thinking it's the ChatGPT, the Gen AI. So we kind of backed up and did a lot of knowledge transfer to help them understand what the possibilities were. We felt that was really important for them to understand before we proceeded. The second is we brought in champions. So we identified those folks in the departments who were technology champions that we could bring into our project team who would really help spear this project. Because it's been, when you start bringing in AI, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of concerns, and we felt that these champions would really help us make this project really successful.
Anything to add, Chip?
I'll add one lesson I learned from Inez and the team in Danville is implementation. There's an analogous problem. A lot of public officials tell me about the loud resident problem. The one person who's shouting at city council meetings has way too much weight in the political process. Well, I've learned in our process that in implementation, in hundreds of staff, there are certain folks who are champions and other folks who can be detractors. And it's not that their opinions aren't valued, but as a vendor trying to treat every staff member kindly, I often would make the mistake of over-indexing on what I heard. And what Inez's team has done is really guide us through the implementation process and meet each department very intentionally so we know that not everyone's a fan of AI. We're a big, scary vendor to them, and here's how we talk to them, here's how we listen to them, and here's the person in that department that's going to champion us, maybe quietly, that we need to build that relationship with. And so we together have political power to make this successful and create the best possible outcomes.
Aaron, I'm curious to hear about some of the implementation on your side and how that matches up to what you were just hearing from Inez here.
Sure. So we're a small locality, and I appreciate the opportunity to be a small locality sharing perspective. We're a small town, about just under 6,000 people here in Virginia. And so we're pretty basic when it comes to some of our technology implementation, and so this was our first step into the world of AI. And so we took this on an iterative path with Readily here in terms of just kind of taking it in incremental steps as we're kind of exploring this thought of this new platform to implement. So starting off with a demonstration phase, having a test environment that we can that's closed off to the public, just internal for staff to kind of play in the sandbox, so to speak. So got together with my management team and shared, this is a platform that we're going to be looking at. So please get in there, poke around, explore, find out what's working well, what are areas that could be enhanced. And so we went through a demonstration or a kind of a test phase for a couple months before we did a soft rollout. And so kind of that incremental implementation is important, I think, especially for the context of our town and taking that first leap into something a little bit more advanced.
Anything to add, Kris?
In terms of like a lesson learned or something?
Yeah, implementation, the process, and for folks in the audience.
Yeah, and so this was true with Woodstock, but for us, like, QA is everything. I mean, the AI is either right or it's wrong. And it's not just whether it's right, it's how often it can be right. So what is the full scope that it can really address, like all the questions, not just some of them. So really paying very close attention to every single conversation that residents or even the internal staff initially were having, and being relentless about how do we get this to right? Like, how do we get this to 100%? And that then gave them the confidence that it was a good solution and it was safe to release to the general public.
That makes sense. Evan, I know you're still exploring solutions, but I'm curious to hear if you have any thoughts on, what are you thinking about ahead of time in terms of implementation? What kinds of potential people are going to be involved that you're bringing together, and objections that you're handling ahead of time?
Yeah, I think for us, we were really looking at this, broadly because from a state like Georgia, we are often fairly conservative in thought and in scope. And we have just launched a study committee last session, last year, that started really looking at where's the data, what is it going to do? Are we going to have to deal with things like hallucinations, and understanding, is this something that's going to be impactful not only for the legislature, but for the constituents of the entire state? And from the state level, we're not only looking at, just us as a body, but we also have to look at all the municipalities and localities that will be interacting with us as well. And so, when we say something, we want to make sure that what we are giving to the public, outward facing, is correct.
And Zain, do you have any thoughts on maybe other implementations that you've done, and what some of the lessons that those folks have learned about that are specific to maybe implementing these kinds of AI technologies?
Well, I think aside from Evan, with our other customers, it's really managing expectations that they have. A lot of all of our customers are just stepping into the use of AI, so to have them focus on small steps first. So for going back to Evan's situation, I think that he has a lot of stakeholders. It's managing expectations. It's being able to focus on a problem where we have a specific solution. So certainly the front end AI chatbot would be the first step in that journey.
Yeah. Well, you got the mic, Zain. We'll reverse the order, come back this way. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about some of the barriers that state and local clients or governments have encountered as they're trying to implement this. Are there AI policy, security, other kinds of concerns that are frequently coming up?
Well, I'm getting pushback from some customers on just regulation. Some of them are just flat out telling me, well, we really can't use any AI at all.
Does that apply to anyone else in the room here? No? Okay.
So that's one area. There's definitely a lot of, I think, fear and concern. Like the what ifs. What if information is not right? What if, it says something bad? So there's a lot of perception, I think, that we need to kind of conquer, if you will. So
that makes sense. Kris, are you hearing similar things? Or
In terms of pushback or barriers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, so this will resonate with some folks in the room, but you'll sometimes hear, because the website is a great source of information. It's actually a huge repository. So they'll say, well, we're in the process of redesigning our website, and so we're not there yet. And there's a concern that the data that's on the website might be outdated and so on. And actually, our response to that is a great AI can overcome that. There are ways that you can overcome that to recognize what is outdated and what's no longer relevant. So, there are folks that, hey, we're going to have to wait until 2026 because we're redesigning the website. And then, by the way, we then talk to folks. We just did the website redesign, and guess what? The problems that they saw that led to them investing in a redesign did not go away. So ultimately, it just comes down to where is the information and what is the AI's capability to actually go through that information and pull the right piece to the resident. And so that's some of the barriers that we've faced in just terms of like where people are in a process that they think may or may not actually be what they think it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we have a lot of medium and smaller cities in this crowd who probably have lots of things on their website that residents may reference, and they say, I can't believe that was still on the website. I don't know why you're emailing me about this. And Aaron, I know you mentioned you're kind of working with implementing this in a small city in Virginia. Are there specific challenges or barriers that came up being from a smaller city that you felt were lessons that other folks in this room might learn from?
No, I think it's just the comfort with new technology and kind of building that as we go. And I think the success with our residents that are out there using the tool, as they are interacting with the chatbot, they are getting the answer that they're looking for. That's building their confidence in the platform. And so we're still in kind of a rollout phase. We're in soft rollout period at this point, and so we're still building that kind of residential experience in terms of people connecting with the tool. And so hopefully, by having that strong response with the platform, people are building that confidence and know it's a resource that they can quickly come back to not have to dig through the website, and they can just get a quick answer.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about impact and success stories in a second, but I'm sure your staff appreciates the time saved as well. Yeah, Inez, I'd love to hear from you about this question about implementation barriers or any kind of common objections that happened either internally or externally.
Yeah, so we're still in pilot right now, but some of the barriers that we've had is getting onboarding support from some of those departments that are still not really understanding what AI is. So we've been very flexible and given them options. So we're starting very slow, keeping our guardrails on. And we have a lot of projects that we've got ahead of this. But as an example, our transportation department said, we don't want to be part of this pilot. So, and we've worked that into our project. So when we get to information that's transportation related, those are just soft transfers to live people. So we've tried to be very flexible with them and understanding that we've got to roll this out very slowly and be very intentional about this implementation. But yeah, that's some of the things that we've done.
And I think a lesson baked in there that we've learned in our experience of CivicReach working with Danville is technology implementation in these cases is way more about change management than technology. Every founder on the stage will tell you how quick our technology can be implemented. Ours is 2 days. I think these guys might be able to beat me. But that actually doesn't really matter. Now when we talk to cities and we say, yeah, we can build you the demo in 2 days, it's going to sound pretty good, but we need a minimum 3 months to work with your staff, if not more. And that's what we're learning. Staff isn't ready for this. We're a resident-facing AI. Residents often aren't ready for this. But rather than us backing away from that challenge, we are working with cities early on in our sales process to validate, are you ready to take that on? Not just us as a vendor, but knowing that that's a lot of time you're going to put in. We have to be a priority if you're going to work with us because it requires that time. I think we're spoiled by working with Danville because we've gotten that time from Inez and her team and the entire staff. We have those 12 departments that put their time in to work with us, and we're not going to get that everywhere, but we've now set that as a standard of cities that we want to work with, to say, you're not ready to work with us unless you're ready to be partners in change management. The technology will not be hard. The change management will be. We're a ready and willing partner to help you with that, but we have to really talk about it and really talk with your staff about it to make sure that we do it right.
So in addition to the chief information officer here in Danville, who else were kind of the critical people that needed to come to the table, and how much of that was, how much of that was you, Inez, kind of bringing people to the table? How many of that was Chip saying, hey, like, before we have a conversation, you definitely got to bring this person in? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I definitely needed to bring my executive staff in, or city manager, or deputy city manager. And one of the first things that we did is Chip and his staff came to one of our department staff meetings, and they introduced themselves, and we had this discussion about AI to get everyone on board, helping them understand. But I would also include your external stakeholders. So we have an ambassador program within the city that we train community leaders to how they can better welcome people. So we're actually leveraging that program for them to be testers in our program. And I think that's going to be another win for us, to get them excited and get the community excited, and getting feedback from them on things that we should be aware of from a citizen point of view.
And while you have the mic, I'd love to hear a little bit about, you said you mentioned you're still in the kind of pilot testing phase. What kind of KPIs are you setting to make sure that, under conditions of success, you can move forward, or under conditions of not success, you know where to improve?
So one of the things I'm really excited about with CivicReach is their analytics. So the ability to, we'll be able to go in there and see where the calls failed, or where the transfers were made, or where the citizen was actually able to get that information. So we'll be getting a lot of that information from the KPIs. How many are requesting to speak to a live person? How many of them are actually getting their answers addressed immediately? And then we'll just continue to feed that AI agent and to make some improvements with that.
Kris and Aaron, I'm not sure what phase you're in at this point. Are you at a phase where you're setting KPIs, where you're seeing some of the results, where you're seeing some impact already? Could you talk a little bit about that?
I'll jump in first.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so we haven't gotten to the point yet of setting town KPIs or things like that, but there's it's a great platform kind of behind the scenes, a dashboard that we're able to kind of see every interaction that's happening, understand where those knowledge gaps are happening with those interactions, and then we have a weekly conversation, and we're able to kind of talk through, hey, it might be a little bit better if the answer was delivered with this context or this lens of information. And so it's great to kind of see the progress of meeting those expectations of hitting the answers, hitting the nail on the head, and then also understanding where those knowledge gaps are, and seeing that progression over time with that, given the answers that are most productive for the user.
Yeah, and so what we're doing is we'll review pretty much every single session, and that's happening essentially every day. And so at the end of the week, we can look back and say, this week, what percentage of these sessions did we correctly answer the question? And it's not just whether we resolve the issue or the query. And we'll see like 95 to 99% in any given week. And that like 4 or 5%, that's where we're digging in to say, okay, this situation came up where somebody was potentially asking for mental health resources in the middle of the night. And okay, how do we actually, and the AI gave correct information, but the question is, how do we actually want to handle that? Well, we don't just want to give the correct information. We want to then ask the person, do you want to be followed up with by the city? And so now we built an AI agent that it's not only answering the question, but then another AI agent steps in immediately, asks that question, collects that contact information, and then is sending that to Aaron right away, so that him and his staff realize that there might be somebody out there in the middle of the night that needs some resources, and as soon as they're able to step in, so it's not just this sort of ephemeral conversation with an AI that like somebody might see the next day. It depends on the review cycle, or if we're building an AI that can then review those sessions. This is actually like in real time, the way that you would expect like a human would handle that situation.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all heard, a version of when you know one county, you know one county. When you know one city, you know one city. So I'm curious to know, when you hit on something useful like that, that, improves this service, adds a new feature, to what extent do you roll that into the general product to help other clients? And to what extent are you making, customizable, keeping it customized for each implementation?
Yeah, so we're building that library of AI agents that we can introduce to every single city to say, these are really useful, essentially, workflows and AI agents that have been deployed. And it's frankly, for the most part, just cut and paste. Like, we can replicate these very easily across cities. So it's building out that library and then having the conversation with that town or that city, is this how you want to handle it? And everybody has different resources and different staff. So then it's tuning that AI agent to handle that situation exactly how that city manager, that town manager, or administrator wants it handled.
So they can kind of turn them on and off as they need and maybe make customizations. Yeah, that's a good way to
exactly.
handle that. And Zain and Evan, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you all are thinking about KPIs and impact. Evan, I know you're maybe still at the phase of kind of figuring out what those might be, working with your staff and other folks. And so, Zain, maybe you could tell a little bit about a story of impact or something from another client or another implementation.
Sure. So our product has very sophisticated reporting and analytics that provide the customers very much the same information that Kris was talking about, the kinds of requests that come into an agency, the types of the number of tickets that are closed, and the tagging of the messages and so forth. But I like what Kris said about sharing that information across the enterprise of his clients. We don't do that, actually. It's just kind of we keep the information siloed within, for each client. We don't kind of share that information or the through the enterprise of all of our 100-plus cities and counties that use our platform.
Great. Have anything to add, Evan, in thinking about how you're thinking about impact of this kind of tool in your context?
I think the impact for us is really going to be understanding how to measure this from a staff perspective. Is it going to be, like Shane said, number of tickets closed? So for us, it would be constituent correspondence. Are they getting the right information? Is it going to be volume? Is it going to be productivity? Is it going to be shared knowledge base? And so I think for us, as we are looking into this and we're really looking at setting those benchmarks, it's going to be for us to develop a slew of topics that we can really dive into each department and say, okay, if we have 2 members that have 1 administrative assistant, what is it that they really need to fulfill? Where are the gaps that AI can come in and fill for us?
Yeah, that's great. I know, elected official offices are not known for being short hours, so I'm sure they are all quite busy and would appreciate the support. And, that kind of gets to me thinking about a little bit. So you're press director, and so all government positions are very focused on resident experience and communications. But I imagine as press director, you're even more sensitive to this. I'm curious how you think about transparency, privacy, data when thinking about implementing these kinds of public-facing things. And maybe Evan, you can start if you've gotten to the point of thinking about some of these things yet, and how you're.
Yeah, these are some of the biggest issues that we talk about when we're talking about these implementations, or even looking at vendors or solutions. We have a whole slew of things that we look at as, does giving up this data waive some kind of sovereign immunity from the body? Is this data going to be transferred anywhere? Do we know that it is actually siloed? So absolutely, these are some of the things that we look into every single time the topic is brought up within the body. We bring in, folks like everyone here to testify before our committees and talk to our members, so that we have a full understanding of everything from actual workload capability to privacy data, because the one thing we have to do is preserve public trust, especially in a time where that can be eroding in government right now.
Zain, do you want to talk a little bit?
Well, I think that when we work with clients like Evan and others, we advise them that anything that they do that's front-facing to their constituency or even internally needs to state up front. There needs to have a rock-solid privacy policy that people can link to. It needs to also state clearly that any information that's collected through these AI chatbots may not be private nor is not private. We also do ensure, of course, and I know that my partners here have their own tech stacks, that all the information is maintained within the United States.
Yeah, I would just add, I mean, so we had a conversation at the beginning about, you know, the kind of private.
They all went out? Did they all go out?
Test, test.
The privacy and different protocols that were put into place as part of their platform, and so that was a conversation that we explored at the very beginning when they were demonstrating the product and answering some of the comfort level questions of us reaching out into this new software territory or platform territory for the town.
I mean, for our part, it's a pretty simple answer. There are certifications where you can prove, you know, it's one thing to say, like, we, you know, respect privacy and we have high standards. There are certifications for these things.
And so we've gone through all of those certifications. So it's not just us saying that we do XYZ. We actually can hand over audits and documents and demonstrate, you know, a raft of technology controls that have been put in place to protect our clients, the residents, and, you know, ourselves, every other stakeholder involved.
So I think for us, it's really testing the waters, putting those guardrails on, making sure that, you know, we're going slow but intentional in this process. But throughout the process, we never wanted to eliminate the human component. So in any portion of our process, if anyone needs to talk to a human, there's always that option. So we left that open. Transparency, making sure that, you know, the public knows exactly what you're doing and that you're advertising that, and make sure that they're clear on what the purpose is, how we're collecting the information, and what are we doing with the information.
Something I want to call out that CivicReach is learning with Danville and as we talk to many more city and county governments is we actually don't know. I mean, privacy, trust, and transparency are really important things. I think trust is the biggest currency that a government has, and our job is to extend that because we're a resident-facing tool. But to a customer, although I do like all the letters that you have, Kris, to back up and the audits you have, some of which we don't, is important, but I don't think the average resident knows what that means. And so something I'm trying to challenge our team to do is when we talk about trust, privacy, and data, there's an ad nauseum amount of conversations about policies and data governance. And we're part of those conversations with governments, but I don't hear nearly enough conversations about what do residents want? We're building resident-facing technology, and on panels like this, we don't often talk about what do residents want. And residents don't always know what they want because a government has worked with us and we haven't put it in front of them yet. So, and as you said, testing the waters, and that's something that we're actually really seeking governments who are willing to do that. Responsibly as can be, we want to be a good steward, but we need to test and learn from residents of when we say transparency, what are their expectations? And I don't think any of us really know what that is yet. This is a new frontier. And hopefully we can learn together and set those standards, not just the frameworks and policies, but the expectations that residents should demand of vendors and of governments.
Thanks. So I think as we're, for the public sector folks, as you are going through this implementation process, as you were thinking about, you know, the impacts of these things, when you're looking to the other side of this process, when you've seen some success and impact, are there places that you see as like next low-hanging fruit for implementing some of these kinds of AI-powered technologies to assist staff or improve resident service?
Yes, absolutely. So I think we've shared with Chip a very long list of what our next phases are. So I'm really excited about the API integration. So being able to integrate and remove and eliminate our $60,000 call center that we have in Atlanta. Be able to replace our dispatchers to do reserve rides for transportation and improve our payment process of customers be able to call in, get their bill amount, and be able to make those payments online. Internally, we're actually looking at integrating this with our service desk so our users can call and create tickets into our service desk. Reset their passwords through APIs into our Active Directory. So, I mean, there's just a long list. I'm very excited about that. But again, it's just we're trying to go slow.
Yeah, I would say that the same thing. Slow iteration is something that we're kind of rolling this out. I think the next thing that we're looking for, as we see success with the AI chatbot on our website, is being mindful of the different ways that people are looking to connect with information. And so, certainly there are a lot of people that are digitally connected, go to a website, go to social media for information. We still have a lot of people that like to pick up the phone and get information that way. And so, building off our work so far, and then going into an AI phone agent that can provide some assistance, especially after hours, so that we can provide that 24/7 access to information for folks that maybe aren't digitally literate or just that's not their first preference in terms of how they connect with information. And then also looking down the line for other ways that we can maybe connect with other software platforms. We're in the process of working with kind of a public works work order system now and changing over that. And so there's certainly some opportunities for us to have synergies and connections between the services with Readily and some of these other platforms and connect those constituent requests.
Evan, do you have any thoughts on some of the additional areas that you're looking to implement, kind of technologies to increase the services or the functioning of the Senate, Georgia Senate?
I think for us, like I said, because we're still in the exploration phase, we're trying to be open to what the possibilities are. Not only are we offering services, while we're creating laws, right? We have a very different function than a lot of the other folks here on this stage. But we also have, like I said, that the public trust for us is the biggest thing. Actual distribution of workload is huge for us, and how we can do that in a responsible manner, because we don't want to take something that is a $200,000 contract and make that into a $1 million project because we don't know exactly what we're doing yet, right? We appropriate money year over year, so really understanding where all this stuff is going and what we actually have to do with it is going to be really important for us.
Yeah, I appreciate you broadening that perspective back out, and I think that transitions us nicely into the kind of a final question coming back this way, starting with you, Zain. I'd love to hear a little bit about, or I'd love to hear any final recommendations, lessons for anybody in the audience here who's thinking about implementing AI tools. Obviously, they've heard a lot throughout the conference about it. Is there any final words of wisdom that you want to add?
Yeah, I would say, to think big, to have a big vision, but to start small. Come up, it's one thing to, want to, when you go out there's so many great companies, sitting here in this panel, and they have so many great solutions, but you can't implement everything. You can't do everything. So you have to really kind of choose your battle and win it. Start with a small challenge, and then find a solution with AI that solves that challenge, and then move on to the next.
Aaron, if you have anything, I'd love to hear as well.
Yeah, I think for us, it's just, I would say, take that first step. Don't be afraid to lean into new technology. There's a lot of unknowns that we've touched upon, with just the realm of AI. And so take that first step, take it cautiously, work incrementally, and I think it can be successful.
Yeah, and I would just say whatever concerns that you might have that may be preventing you from taking that first step, to just talk to us about it, because technology is advancing quickly, and in some cases, the technology has already addressed the concern that you might have, and there's that opportunity to take that step may be right in front of you.
Yeah, one of the great reasons why we love working with startups here at CivStart is you can often go straight to the founder, really dive in, share your feature list, as Inez has with Chip here, and really kind of direct that course of innovation.
Yeah, I just echo what everyone said, and find those champions. You can't do it on your own, so find your technology champions in your organization that can really help spearhead and engage with you and really get everything on board.
I'd say a lesson that I think governments could learn from startups, or one that we seem to be asked to impart a lot, if I can be so bold to say that, is listen to your residents that are frustrated, and that's your own feature list, whether you're working with a vendor or not. Residents' expectations of technology keep going up, and that gets reflected back to how they ask you to deliver services. And all through the technologists on the stage, we addressed that. We said, we can raise the bar. And I think governments can do that on their own. And there's nothing cooler than when public officials come inbound to CivicReach to say, we've been looking for this solution because residents asked for it. There's no explaining we have to do from there, because it's already a fit. And that came from the public servants listening to their residents, and then we get to work together and make something great.
Thank you to all the panelists for joining me today for our largest panel of the day. And I just wanted to quickly mention, before you all give these folks a well-earned round of applause, that we have launched a poll in the app. If you register for the conference, you have access to the app. You probably received an email. And that poll is for the Audience Choice Award for startups. You can vote for as many startups as you think deserve it. And that will help determine who wins the Audience Choice Award in an hour or two. So please take a look at your phones, your email, and give those folks a vote. And give me a round of applause for these panelists. Thank you.
saw your face and